Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. And then as others come in, we'll let them join us. So good morning on behalf of the San Diego Domestic Violence Council and the Faith Leaders Subcommittee. I just greet you this morning with a warm virtual hug and or pat on the back. My name is Karen and I work for a public consulting group. We're CalWorks for the county and I am domestic violence advocate and a few other hats I wear here. And so this morning we have we really are excited that you're here with us. We're going to get some great information. I wanted to just start with the universal thought. And today I wanted to share from one of my favorite books. And it says that you shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, and your branches go out far reaching. And so imagine ourselves as a big tree, like maybe a palm tree. No, not the palm tree yet. An elm tree, a tall elm tree. The branches go out, the leaves are green, and lovers come and picnic under the shade of your tree. Or you could be an apple tree, and the children playing in the park, they come and grab an apple off your tree, or a peach tree. I love peaches. And so just imagine us being that and how we cover others. That's one of the things that we do. The other tree I want you to think about is the palm tree. If you ever watch a palm tree, now, tropical areas, California, Hawaii, God bless the folks in Maui, and Florida, all palm trees, right? So imagine if you were a palm tree and it's that tropical storm season. So that palm tree stands up straight most of the year. But every now and then when the storm comes, that palm tree, it bends all the way down to almost touching the ground. And then as soon as the storm passes, that palm tree stands back up straight. And we too, as humans, we will have our share of storms in life. But you're in this room now because of the resilience that you have, just like that palm tree. But you know why the palm tree can go that far down and then stand back up? Is because its roots go down deep. And so that's what are some of the roots on your tree? What's rooted there? Sometimes we have to pull out weeds and all like that, right? So that we can blossom. So as the palm trees that we are today, I just applaud you for standing strong, overcoming every storm that you've ever faced, and the resilience that you carry every day and how it pours out into others' lives. So thank you for letting me share that a little bit. And any thoughts about being a tree? Okay. Amelia, if you can give us the greeting from our Domestic Violence Council
Yes.
President.
So on behalf of Claudia Grasso, who is our DV Council President, also at the DA's office and the director of the North County Family Justice Center, One Safe Place, I just wanted to thank you so much for the role that you play in reaching out to your community, whatever that community is. And people have different levels of leadership within your congregations, and we really appreciate the wisdom and the knowledge that you're gaining. You already have the empathy, you already have the love for your membership. But what we appreciate for your joining us is to get knowledge and to also, we hope, build trust with the resources here in our county. San Diego is really blessed to have strong collaboration and resources. Not every county has this kind of network and sharing of resources and even generosity of private donors. So one of the things we will be sharing with everyone will be our upcoming October Domestic Violence Awareness Month. events. The opening launch date is Tuesday, October 3rd. It will be at Balboa Park in person from 11 to 2 p.m. We have a flyer. Our website is under construction, but it will also be going on our website. If you're not already on our Facebook page, it's also posted on Facebook. So all of this information we'll share with you. And then every week we will have regional events. So if you're in North County, there will be a joint collaboration between the Teen Dating Violence Committee and the North County DV Coalition, open to parents, open to families, open to teens, and any other leaders. We really welcome the community to attend that event. There will also be an East County event that will be actually a self-care event for providers. And each one of you is a provider. Each one of you cares for your congregation, your flock, your community. And so we'll share that information with you as well. And then South Region will also have an event for their community. So wherever you are in the county, there will be an event for you that hopefully you can join.
Okay.
Then depending on the event, share that widely with the members of the community. Okay, well, that's really my main announcement. And I think that most of you have already met our new incoming president-elect, Dr. Vanessa Rodriguez. And, she's been here already, but the transition between our presidency will occur also in October. So just to give you that heads up, we're just really excited to have these strong, compassionate, dedicated individuals in leadership for the DV Council. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Amelia. And Mia, are you available to introduce our speaker? We're in for a real great educational time.
Sure. I would like to introduce Allison. Allison is a director of I think it's counseling services. Is that correct? At Center for Community Solutions, which is an amazing organization supporting victims across San Diego. They have offices in Central San Diego, which is more like Mission Bay area, and then they also have an office in El Cajon and an office in North County. So they really try their best to support the entire county and victims of domestic violence, intimate partner violence, sexual assault, and any other traumatic incidents that might be occurring in an individual's life. So Allison, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Mia. So I am a marriage and family therapist working for Center for Community Solutions for over 6 years now. And we are technically the only rape crisis center in San Diego City. There are some other organizations that do like North Coastal and then South Bay, but we really are trying to cover the bulk of the county for sexual assault and intimate partner violence. We work in tandem with the Domestic Violence Council and all the other amazing organizations that are doing that work. So we're unique in that we do both rape crisis center work and domestic violence center work. We do have offices in El Cajon, Escondido, and Pacific Beach, and we operate 2 shelters, one in East County and one in North County. And I'll go over all the services we offer, but a little bit more about me. I'm not a stranger to presenting to faith committees. I worked in Orange County for Jewish Federation and Family Services for quite some time and really enjoyed doing the work with the rabbis up in Orange County and also the Interfaith Committee up there. So really excited that I was invited to speak to you all. The work that you all do is so essential for survivors to feel supported, to have these layers of community support wrap around them as they make really difficult decisions and navigate these traumas, and often with their families. So thank you for all the work that you do and for being here today. So Center for Community Solutions, we offer legal, counseling, advocacy, and prevention work. Our legal services, I do want to take this opportunity to share with you all, we are short-staffed right now. We've been impacted by inflation, just like everybody else. So we do have a pretty small legal team, but we assist in operating restraining order clinics, which is probably the biggest ask that you all will get from our intimate partner violence survivors, folks that need to file a restraining order or who want information on a restraining order. We are on site at the El Cajon County Courthouse and also working in tandem with One Safe Place out in San Marcos. Those are two really great resources, as well as the Family Justice Center downtown. Those are places where survivors can walk in and file those restraining orders. But our legal department also helps talk through just what might you want to put on that restraining order, what evidence will you be asked for, and really, what are you walking into when you start that process? Because so many folks have never interacted with the legal system, or who are rightfully so pretty intimidated by that process. Our legal team of advocates and lawyers are there to help guide them of what they could include, hopefully be more likely to get those restraining orders granted. We also work in tandem with San Diego Volunteer Lawyer Program, who also runs that clinic on opposite days as us. Otherwise, our legal services are really consultation based. We don't have the staff to do direct representation. So we're really advocates. So if you think about what an advocate might do, it's providing resources, providing information, and then really opening the floor to those clients for what questions they might have, what hesitations they have, and talking through other options. Not every client that comes to us is ready to leave a situation, wanting to leave a situation. Not every person is ready to file a restraining order or entitled to a restraining order. So we really want to make sure people know their options. There's just so much confusion in the environment around what's considered abuse, what's not, and really what the legal system determines as abuse. So that's what our legal system can support with. Our shelter services, as I mentioned, are in North and East County. These are designed to be for survivors who are fleeing pretty severe, more physical violence, although any type of abuse is open. So emotional, financial, emotional abuse, physical abuse, even verbal abuse, all of those things qualify them as intimate partner violence survivors. And our shelters are confidential locations. So we really try and prioritize folks who need to hide. For an example, if there's an East County resident who's attempting to flee their partner, we will ask them to come to our North County shelter to just ensure as much protection and safety as possible. We'll encourage them to, be able to keep that location confidential for the safety of everyone involved. And so we will prioritize those cases. Of course, we also take survivors where it's more of a homelessness situation in regards to their intimate partner violence relationship. They need to get to safety. They cannot live with this person anymore and they have nowhere else to go. Those folks are absolutely eligible, and we do screen those people as well. We'll just give priority to folks that are really in more immediate danger and in need of confidential spaces. Those shelters are 45-day stays. Throughout COVID, we have been able to extend that stay. It used to be 28 days, like a lot of residential programs, but now it's 45. That gives folks just a little bit more time to get their feet under them, to see what other resources are out there, to contact family, friends that might be able to support, all those kinds of things. It was really hard to do in 4 weeks, as you might imagine. And San Diego is so expensive. Survivors aren't out there just putting a deposit on a new apartment if they can even find one. So we want to give them a little bit more time for that. We do also have some long-term beds available, but those are pretty minimal. And we prioritize folks that have been through our short-term program first. So we don't advertise that as much, but do know that if a client or if a community member you refer to our program comes in, we'll try our best to support them either with our long-term facility or connect them to other housing options in the county. Connected to our shelter, we also operate the 24-hour hotline. Used to be called DV Links. For those of you who have an old business card laying around, we've had the contract for over 10 years, so it's a different number now. DV Links, if you dial it, will still redirect to us, but we operate that 24-hour domestic violence hotline that you can Google. That's how a lot of folks find us. They'll Google domestic violence San Diego and they'll find us. Intimate partner violence is the term that we are trying our best to transition to. If you're not sure why, what do you think of when you think of DV or domestic violence? Most people will think of a heterosexual couple, a man and a woman, where the man is the aggressor. Intimate partner violence, we're attempting to be much more inclusive and aware of folks of all genders who may be in the perpetrator or victim role. Also, any relationship makeup. Not all folks who are being abused are married. Not all folks have children. And so we're trying to transition to intimate partner violence. So you'll hear me kind of switch back and forth between those two terms, but that's why we use that. We also operate the sexual assault 24-hour hotline. So if a constituent dials RAIN, so the Rape, Abuse, Incest Network, and they're in San Diego County, it'll also redirect to us. So we are, as part of the Rape Crisis Center, we operate that sexual assault hotline and connect folks if they're in need of a forensic exam following a sexual assault or rape, or if they need information on what services are available. That is also through our 24-hour hotline. They may be dispatched directly to our 24-hour response team that goes out to the forensic sites. Right now, that's in North County. Anyone who's raped in San Diego and requires or requests a forensic exam is often transported by law enforcement to a forensic exam facility in Poway or Palomar. And they are provided with a medical exam, which gathers evidence. It's very in-depth and very invasive. And our advocates are dispatched 24 hours a day to either be in person or provide telephonic advocacy. So they know their rights. Most importantly, they know that they can decline that service at any moment. A lot of survivors are in shock, understandably so, and go to the exam and then at some point decide that that's not helpful for them or they don't want to continue. And the advocates are really there to make sure that they understand those rights and also the services that they can engage in following the exam, and to just prepare them for what comes next. The nurses are really focused on gathering the evidence, understanding what they're looking at and providing all of that information to the client and less focused on what happens next. That's where our advocates step in. I'll pause for just a second because I've already gone over legal and shelter in our hotline and a little bit of what our sexual assault response team does. Just want to see if there's any questions or clarifications before I go into our other services.
If you have any questions, you can just come off mute and instead of putting them in the chat. Since thank you, Allison, for opening it up like that. Go ahead with your questions.
Yeah, either way is fine with me.
And well, I'm just going to go ahead and say I just met a lady this week on Monday, and she was the first time in our office. And I think I need to refer her for confidential housing. We put her in a hotel on yesterday, but he's harassing and stalking and tracking her, and it's just not. It's really bad. I'm concerned about her, so I'll probably be reaching out to you guys later on.
Please do. Yeah, those situations are very scary, and often survivors don't realize the level they're being surveilled until they try and leave. Because if they're doing what they're supposed to do, they don't know that their perpetrator is watching their every move. So if they're realizing that, absolutely, that should be a referral.
Yeah, and the phone, the way he was able to track her, we had to call 911 and get law enforcement involved. He was tracking her, and we had to get her to a 7-Eleven and until the law enforcement got there. And so, the technology is really, it works good in some areas, and then sometimes it's not good for us.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we, all of our volunteers and staff go through a 66-hour crisis intervention training where we talk a little bit about technology safety planning, where clients can really look at their phones, think through who has access, what have you given passwords to, what have you noticed around, I went to the grocery store and all of a sudden I saw his car driving by. That was kind of odd. Trying to put together those pieces for the clients before they get to our shelter so that the same thing doesn't happen right away.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I just missed earlier. Sorry. What cities in the county are your shelters located in?
You didn't miss it. I didn't say it because they're confidential. We just say North and East County.
Makes sense. Okay. Totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why I didn't ask for, I wanted to phrase that question well and not ask specifically where there were, but North and East County, that's great to know.
Yeah, and absolutely, we get that question all the time, especially from clients. And so if we screen them and they're eligible, then of course we tell them exactly where it is so they can really think through if that makes sense. But yeah, try and keep it vague. Thank you.
It's very smart and good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, Amelia. Oh, you're on mute though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask the question about the difference between advocacy when they're still needing support versus ready to take action to actually call to do a shelter intake. If there are families who are, have significant red flags, they may not even admit that it's intimate partner violence yet. What are the steps for reaching out for that kind of advocacy support?
Absolutely. Great question, Amelia. That's really our hotline. Our hotline advocates and our hotline coordinator, they're all trained to just use what's called motivational interviewing. So some of you may be familiar with that, but it's really just helping the clients kind of talk through their current situation, where they are in their decision-making process. So that model is really pre-contemplation. So I think there might be a possible problem all the way to action. And our advocates can really work with any of folks anywhere on that spectrum, just giving them information, letting them know what the process might be like, what they might encounter. We always try to be very cautious to not tell them this is how it will be, because everyone's situation is so unique, but really working to answer their questions, talk through their concerns, and first and foremost, really doing some safety planning that includes emotional safety planning. So doing some grounding, some deep breathing, much like Karen, your tree metaphor, talking about what's kept them rooted, what's kept them, alive every single day till they picked up the phone. Just because they're reaching out to us doesn't mean all of a sudden we're swooping in and doing something to save them. It's their journey. And so they're calling us for assistance and we're walking alongside. So we're wanting to talk about those roots. What's kept you grounded? What other supports do you have? Who's leaning through that storm with you? And how can we be of help? So really for us, advocacy is the same, whether they're ready to take action or whether they're just barely thinking about it. Thank you.
That's great to know.
I knew I'd work in that tree somehow. Any other questions at this point? I have a couple other services I'll talk about, but I also know that I talk quickly, so wanted to give you all a pause.
I did have one more thing as far
Sure.
as confidentiality, and they don't have to contact law enforcement, right? That is not a requirement of receiving services for shelter or counseling or legal services, correct?
No, sounds like you might have been in that meeting last Friday, Amelia. We do not require our clients to contact law enforcement, to really be involved in the carceral system at all. It's always up to them. The only exception that I'll talk about in a little bit is our counseling services with mandated reporting, but I'll go over that more. But our clients never have to include law enforcement on their own, just to report DV, just to try and get their perpetrator picked up. That is definitely not a requirement for interacting with us. Thanks for that clarification. I want to say, since I've worked at CCS, that is law enforcement interaction is something that I've learned so much more about, just as a white woman, not really understanding sometimes why folks are uncomfortable contacting law enforcement, and knowing that that's part of my safety plan as a therapist. We're going to talk about 911, really understanding how to phrase that as a question. So just as an example, often we'll say, is calling law enforcement something that's available to you? And that's a really nice way to phrase that, where you're not saying, oh, are you afraid? Or like, are you, I might guess that you're uncomfortable. It's just a way to say, is this an option that's available to you? And I found that really helpful to navigate that conversation, because for a lot of folks of all different backgrounds and identities, it's not an option. And it's not available to them for whatever reason. And so we always ask that question before we just suggest it. Thanks for that. Okay, since I kind of hinted at counseling, I'll talk about our counseling services. So that is my department. The clinical department sees clients in every office in person And overwhelmingly, people are asking for video or phone sessions these days. Of course, in COVID, we shifted, just like most other folks, to doing telephonic and video conferencing. And we found San Diego is so huge, people are so busy that they're still really wanting the flexibility of telehealth. So we offer both. We have child therapists focused just on children 6 to 18 doing talk therapy if they have witnessed intimate partner violence in the home, or if they've experienced sexual assault themselves. We're able to offer them services, as well as adults that have experienced sexual assault and or intimate partner violence in the last year. Due to the need in the county, we've actually had to continue to shorten that window. There was a time where we didn't have that time limit, and then we shortened it to 3 years, and we still couldn't serve folks in a quick enough time to really be helpful. So now it's within the last 12 months, adults are eligible for individual counseling services. And they can still access our group. We have an ongoing skills group that talks about what happens to our brain and bodies and trauma, what happens if you've been through abuse, how it might change the way you interact in relationships. And that group is open to folks with no time limit. So we've tried to be a little bit flexible with what we can provide. We do have staff therapists as well as student trainees. We work with University of San Diego, National University, and Point Loma University, and we have between 4 and 8 trainees every year. They also have to go through that 66-hour training. They're in a master's degree program. And so we try to make sure that clients understand they're still getting really intense, amazing care from those students just as much as from our staff. Our current wait is only 2 to 4 weeks for both programs. That's pretty unheard of. I'm trying not to jinx it, but if you do have a client who's been hanging on, waiting, please feel free to refer them to us, as well as that group. Folks can join that group immediately. It's an open drop-in virtual group, and that's been very helpful, just to provide that flexibility. All our services are pro bono, so we don't bill insurance. We don't ask for any kind of donation or anything. Folks can just come as they are. That also means we don't diagnose. So I know some folks might ask you, can I get medication or see a psychiatrist? I need a diagnosis for work so I can get disability. Unfortunately, we're not able to serve those folks. We're really doing the talk therapy and surrounding that crisis intervention. Sometimes I describe it as helping people put their skin back on so they can walk out in the world without everything being painful. After an assault, after leaving a relationship, or even in a relationship, people are just walking around really exposed. And so we try our best to surround those needs in our counseling department. Since this is my jam, anyone have questions about counseling or clinical services?
One of the things you brought up is about the effect of the trauma from domestic or intimate partner violence. So this lady that came in this Monday into our office, she has an 8-month-old baby. And so she shared with me a moment where, he's just very viciously attacking her verbally and loud. And the one thing she said is, if he gets drunk, I'm really afraid he'll show up. That's when he shows up, when he's drunk, which is every day just about. So anyway, she was saying the effect that the baby, it started to have on the baby, as one day she was sitting in the rocker holding the baby, and he was standing over her just yelling and screaming. And she said how her baby just kept jumping and just kept jumping. And so, and I know you're not a neurologist, but the effect that has on brain development, do you have any information you could share with us? Because I just find that so interesting, because I know it really does traumatize the children as well. She's getting her neurology book.
I have lawn mowing all of a sudden outside my window. Yes, that's a great question. And I think I would like to just put a plug. I can come back and teach you all the neurobiology of trauma. I have an hour spiel all ready to go that we do for our crisis intervention training. I find that tremendously helpful for anyone that is attempting to support survivors. But what you're talking about is that hypervigilance that comes through living with unpredictability. So for little ones, but also adults, when you're being abused and you're trying to anticipate that abuse happening at any moment, you learn to be really on edge, really vigilant, looking around at all times, and things can startle you really easily. And as far as the child yelling, screaming, acting out, often what I talk to with my survivor clients is attachment theory, and this idea that there's a safer attachment with the parent who is not doing harm. And that parent who's not doing harm, they know is going to be stable, they're going to be present, they are usually not going to be as disciplinarian, and they kind of know, even from that small age, I can react big, I can do mean things to you, and you're still going to love me, you're going to forgive me, you're not going anywhere. And that can actually create some pretty awful behavior. And it's actually developmentally appropriate. With attachment theory, they know that that person is safe to act out on, and they're not going to be hurt by that parent. But it's pretty awful for the survivor client to go through. You know, often it's, we've left this situation, you're safe now, I can parent the way I want, and you're acting like this, like I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. And it's really the child acting out what they couldn't act out before, or that they feel safe enough to really figure out, what do I do when I'm mad? Because I got this model before, and I'm still learning how to be mad and be kind at the same time. When they have the space, the expansiveness to figure out that emotional regulation, it can be really hard for that parent to figure out how to navigate. Did I answer that?
Yes, awesome answer. One more quick question. Do you guys service human trafficking survivors?
We do, and North County Lifeline is really a better fit for that. They're funded, they're really focused on human trafficking. Also San Diego Youth Services, if it's youth that's being trafficked. Those two organizations really are more focused, more steeped in that world. And often those relationships start off as romantic partners. They start off as something that is qualified under intimate partner violence. And so we absolutely we wouldn't refuse service. We want to make sure that they're getting the best that they can. And North County Lifeline and San Diego Youth Services for Youth are really set up to do a little bit better than us.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah. I do think that in the faith community, you know, the recent movie that came out, trafficking is a hot topic. And so I won't talk a lot on it, but I do want to mention that most of what we see with rape and intimate partner violence are known folks. It's really less people being plucked off the street and being taken, you know, by surprise. It's often folks that ingratiate themselves, their coaches, their friends, their people that you're dating, that are often the folks that are perpetrating sexual assault, trafficking, intimate partner violence. Overwhelmingly, it's people that you already know and that you let in, that you trust, because that's part of their focus. That's part of their plan, and it's less stranger danger kind of stuff. That still happens, but often it's known assailants. Okay, one other department to talk about. It's our PEAS department. It's an acronym. We love our acronyms at Center for Community Solutions. PEAS is our Prevention, Education, and Advocacy Services, and they often will be tabling at outreach events. We were just out at Pride, making sure that folks knew that we serve people of all genders. They are doing contracts with local schools, High Tech High and Howard High School, as well as schools in City Heights. We're making sure that we're getting out there and offering some prevention curriculum. So we don't want to just be reactive. We would love to go out of business one day and have, you know, intimate partner violence and sexual assault be less of an issue. So we don't need to exist. Prevention is the only way to do that. Getting out there and talking to youth about healthy relationships, talking about healthy communication, emotional regulation, talking about rape culture, you know, this idea that, you know, the kind of gender norms around sexual behavior, and just telling people to say, like, hey, you can just ask if people are interested in that behavior. You can, have your own self-control, your own boundaries around that, and then teach them how to communicate that without that shame, without the stigma of being worried to talk about it. And of course, faith communities, you have your own values around that. Communication is still important. How do you teach those kids in your congregations to say, like, this is my boundary, and what's a healthy way for me to communicate that without feeling like it's a problem? Folks are all over the spectrum of their willingness or intrigue into sexual behavior. And we're trying to teach kids to just talk about it with people who can help them figure out where they land, figure out how to say what they want to say. And a lot of times it's empowering youth to say, that's not what I want to do. I'm not interested in that. This is what I'd like to do. I'm interested in going to the movies with you. And I have this really clear boundary of what I'm going to engage in as a youth or before marriage or whatever their values are. Let's just teach kids how to say that and have those conversations all around, and then how to accept that no. So we want to make sure that we're really helping on that realm to just teach youth, if they haven't had that model, how do you have an argument? How do you have a disagreement? How do you handle rejection? And still maintain some healthy relationships and maintain your own values and your own self-concept. So that PEAS work that we do, that prevention work, is so essential. And that group is open to coming in, doing presentations, to getting out and doing tabling events, really tailoring curriculum to folks, coming out and doing paid trainings. So I really encourage, if any of you are interested in that for your congregations, or there's interest, that's something that we always want to get out and meet people where they are in their communities. We're not everywhere, PB, El Cajon, Escondido. We know we're not serving all folks, all backgrounds, all identities. There are a lot of people of color that don't know who we are, where we are. They might look at our staff and wonder if they're represented. While we do have a lot of Latinx staff, we have quite a few bilingual Spanish speakers. We do have a hotline person who often answers the phone, who is familiar with the Middle Eastern language. And we also have a couple trainees now that it changes every year. So I've been really lucky to have some Black students come through and really meet the Black community where they are and be able to provide that service of being seen. And then this year, I'm lucky to have 2 AAPI identifying therapists. But we know we're not everything to everyone. So we just really want to get knowledge out to folks, make sure that we can be resources. I think that's all our services. Questions or comments or concerns, anything I talked about?
I want to go first and just say that thank you for the offering at the end, because with us being the faith community, one of the things we do is you go to church, they pass the plate for the offering. Sure. So your offering was great. And I'm going to be one of the first to ask that you come and talk to our youth leaders, or maybe not you, but your team that talks about that teen dating thing, because we really need to equip them. We're actually rebirthing that ministry right now as we speak. And I know that the young people need the support and what you offer. And then I'm also going to offer you some tabling opportunities as well. So,
right.
Yeah, but that's open to anyone in this room. And so, any questions for Allison while we have her here with us? Thank you so much, Allison.
Absolutely.
Feel free to unmute and ask your questions.
Allison, this is Julio Ramos. Thank you so much for the great information you shared. We share some things in common. I'm with the Positive Parenting Program at Jewish Family Service.
Love that.
Something that you mentioned, sometimes we have to refer clients to different organizations, and many of our clients are Spanish speakers. Do you have counseling staff that would be able to support the Spanish speaking clients?
Yes, our counseling and our advocacy services, we always have Spanish speaking staff. I'm very lucky that all of my clinical team, except for myself and one other clinician, all speak Spanish. So children and adults can be seen in Spanish, and all of our advocacy services have Spanish speakers as well. The presentations, we do still have one Spanish speaker able to even do a presentation in Spanish.
Fantastic, thank you. And we're also have been growing in working with other immigrant communities. Recently, we've been presenting in Pashto and Dari, as well as Arabic. Do you have access to interpreters for clients if they're referred to be able to communicate in their native tongue?
Yes, we do work with certified language interpreters. So that is a telephonic service. And we use it all the time for hotline. And I have had over the last year, a lot of my clinical team use it even for counseling. And I know the advocacy team uses it as well. It's not perfect. It's not in person. And we can get the job done. So we absolutely can offer that. I do have a Mandarin speaker this year for counseling services, and I want to say it's Persian in East County.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Definitely. I'm seeing a couple questions. So I'll just drop our website here. Flyers, if you have a specific flyer that you'd like, please let me know what you're looking for. And we do presentations at schools right now. Our grants don't cover us to do things at just any school. We would need to talk about a fee, perhaps to do presentations at other schools, and absolutely we're open to that. And we're happy to table when we have the bandwidth to do so at other schools. Other questions?
Okay. Yes, Allison, hi.
Hi, Monica.
Thank you so much. What a great session. So I have a question for you on a service that you didn't mention, but I'm not totally sure where you guys are in the process. So 2 weeks ago, Friday, 3 of us from Uplift, and that's Urban People Living in Faith and Trust.
Yes.
And we are in our 2 lanes, our homeless services, assisting with housing preparation, placement, and retention. And then student services with free tutoring around San Diego Public Libraries,
Love that.
San Diego Unified, and then mentoring also. So your new COO, Amy Gagno, formerly of Alpha Project, is a very good friend and had us go through the CRM training, community resilience model.
Yeah.
How amazing. Absolutely amazing. I think realistically, we should require that for anyone working in at least homeless services. It's a 3.5-hour training. The trainers themselves were wonderful. The content was wonderful. And it applied at, my own personal life. I've come out of 2 domestic violence situations. I'm a grandma of 5 now, just across the board, so good. And then of course, dealing with clients, how to de-escalate, how to help people prepare for times of crisis when they're not in crisis, genius. So where are we with offering that out to the public? And one of the reasons that we got kind of reeled in was specifically to address kind of where we are with this group, you guys, thank you so much for hosting this, is to bring greater awareness to pastors and the faith community at large. But so many times the pastor is the only one who will find out what's going on, and they need to know where to turn and where to send these folks. And also to bring a greater level of comfort to populations of color, all colors, in seeking help, in seeking assistance, protection. Culturally, just in general, mental health services has not necessarily been a robust part of cultural process, regular engagement. So where are you with the CRM training? I would love, if that's okay, I hope I didn't let the cat out of the bag, but.
No, you're not at all, Monica. And thank you so much for saying that. And I'm glad to hear about your experience, that it was so positive. So the CRIM training, or community resiliency model, it actually doesn't belong to us. We have just been so lucky to work with the Trauma Resiliency Institute for probably about 10 years. And the training that Monica's referencing is really a set of skills to help de-escalate people when they're we say bumped out on high. If you think of your resiliency zone where you feel kind of good, you feel kind of stable, bumped out on high is going to be anxiety, feeling like you're hyperventilating, you're rushing around, and bumped out on low is going to be that depression, feeling low, low energy. It's really all around, okay, then what do you do? How do you help ground someone? How do you help them calm down? How do you help them even understand what on earth is happening to them and their nervous system? And so that training actually is because we did a train the trainer training with the Trauma Resiliency Institute, TM. So I have to say that. But we love CRIM, and we do teach it to everyone coming in to work for our agency. And what you went to is actually a pilot. That is something that any group, if you have 6 or more folks that are willing to pay for that training, we're happy to bring that wherever it's needed. Being someone who's worked in the faith communities in the past, I do think it's a great thing for faith leaders to go into, because people do trust you. They come and they dump all their stuff on you, right? They come and tell you so much information that while you're absolutely, able to hold that, it can be a lot. And sometimes you're left with the, what do we do now? And one of the reasons I really love CRIM as a therapist is we're able to really meet clients where they are. And often they're integrating their faith, they're integrating prayer, they're integrating their higher power in a way that's helpful for them. And so there's not like an offering, it is part of our P's department, but you all have my contact information now. I'm always happy to be the connector. I'm also very trained in CRIM and I love doing presentations. So if anybody's willing to get a group together and pay for that training, we're happy to do that and just give people the tools to help people.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so it's kind of a small group, customized approach for the offering of that.
Yes. And depending how much you want, it could be a 3-day training if you really want to pony up, but
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, whatever
Okay.
you want us to design, we can absolutely talk that through.
Okay, awesome. That's great. Allison, thank you so much. And thank you for hosting, guys.
Thanks, Monica. I know you all are running out of time. Does anybody have any other questions or anything I can leave you with?
This was great. This was really great. And thanks, Monica, for bringing that CRIM up, because I'll be following up on that as well. I think the more equipped we are, we just need all the tools we can carry in a tool belt too, because we never know what's going to show up. And so I'm definitely very interested in that.
Highly recommend. I'll take it again with you.
Okay.
Monica's our cheerleader. I love it.
Oh my God, I so am your cheerleader. We've just got to have more positive energy in the world in general, guys. And they were very respectful about faith engagement, where it is for you, the person. It was very customized to each unique individual's response to trauma, but also recognized the basic mechanics of the human brain, their functions. It was so good. I cannot recommend it highly enough. Okay, thanks, Allison.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Allison? Well, we just want to thank you, Allison, for bringing your expertise and your energy into our space this morning. It was
And my Sour Patch Kids.
yeah, and your Sour Patch Kids and your wisdom. And so we really appreciate your time. And I want to ask, is Center for Community Solutions, are you a nonprofit?
We are absolutely a nonprofit. All our services are
Oh.
pro bono, paid for
Okay.
heavily by grants, and we are always accepting donations.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure we were clear on that. Okay, that's really good to know. And so if there's nothing else on the table, then we'll release you a little early today.
Thank you so
And
much. Nice to meet you all.
we really appreciate you visiting with us today. And so we'll be sending out to everyone that's here. Mia, we'll follow up and make sure that everyone that was here gets information about what we discussed today.
Great. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. All right. Goodbye, team. We'll see you in October for the opening event on October 3rd, as Amelia mentioned earlier this morning. And we will be sending that flyer out too. We'd love to meet you all in person on that opening event. And then throughout the month, the other events throughout each region will also be shared with you. Any closing comments or thoughts?
We go, God bless everybody.
Yes.